like Iron Maiden. Hey folks, and welcome to 50 Years of Iron Maiden on Grab a Stack of Rock. This is episode 29, and we have our returning guest, Uncle Meat, for this very special album, A Matter of Life and Death. Mr. Meat, Uncle Meat, welcome to the show. Now, why did you pick this album?
Well, two reasons. The first reason being that I did see this tour live. I picked Live After Death because I had seen, that tour live, kind of. Yeah. And second of all, it's probably my favorite Iron Maiden album in the last 30 years. So it makes sense.
This is going to be a fun episode, I'm telling you. So we have a lot to cover tonight. We have the album itself. We have a number of what I'm going to say the most disorganized mess of bonus tracks and B-sides ever to deal with on an Iron Maiden album. It used to be simple. It used to be they'd put out 2 singles and each one would have 2 B-sides. Well, not this time. We've got a lot to talk about, and then we're going to go into depth on this very unique tour that they did. But let's start by talking about the album, A Matter of Life and Death. That cover there is by Tim Bradstreet, who has done The Punisher for Marvel. So that's kind of cool. Very different album cover with a kind of a low-key Eddie. He's not up front. This was released on the 25th of August, 2006, was recorded between March 1st and the 4th of May, 2006 at Sarm West in London. And Kevin Shirley produced this once again. But interestingly, the album was not mastered. It was mixed and released, but never mastered. It says on Wikipedia, I'll confess, to provide a more live sound, the album was not mastered. Kevin Shirley said, I spoke to Ari on Friday, who has decided against mastering the Iron Maiden album. It means that you will get to hear the new album exactly as it sounded in the studio, no added EQ, compression, analog widening, etc. And I must say, I am pretty happy with the end result. And I am too.
As usual, I think Bruce was also quoted as saying basically, we listened to it and I'm like, gee, this sounds fantastic. We don't need to master this. And so it just went out as was. The irony is that when they did the Studio Collection remastered in 2019, I wonder what the sticker said for A Matter of Life and Death. Was it just mastered?
That's genuinely what it is.
That's funny because it does say remastered. That's what it says. That's funny.
There you go. Okay.
It's a lie.
It is. It is. It's never been mastered. All right. Well, let's start song by song. This album opens with Different World, a Harrison.
If I did, I'm not getting royalties for it.
He's not getting the royalties. A Harris and Smith, not Harrison Smith, Harris and Smith composition. Uncle Meat, take it away with your thoughts on this opening track.
Honestly, it's, and I think this is kind of a theme as to how they recorded it and why they recorded it. This really is a perfect kind of opening Maiden live track. It just starts right off the bat. It is Maiden, fast pace. Bruce must have loved singing, especially the chorus, and it's a lower chorus. Kind of almost a voice warmer up at times. Like it's not all low, but the chorus was a nice lower chorus. Like I said, it was just a perfect Maiden opener. Love the song. It's a great way to start the album.
I noted a bunch of things from the included DVD that I'll be sprinkling into this, but I wrote down, and this is interesting, that this was originally written in 7/8 time by Adrian, and they kind of worked it into a 4/4 time song. That's kind of interesting to me. I love the riff. I love that high complementary droning part that plays over it. There's that high part that plays over the main riff, and it's really cool. I love the chorus. I think this is a much better opener than Wildest Dreams was on the last album. And to me, Bruce's voice sounds much more full than it did on the last album. It sounds rejuvenated. I think this is some of the strongest singing on this album that Bruce has done in the reunited career. He really does sound like he's back in a full, clean voice. And continuing on with themes from the last couple albums, the lyrics are more about real life. They seem to be about following a path, but that path can change on the drop of a dime. I wrote down one verse that I really liked here. I thought I had it all. I had it all worked out. Just what the future held, that there would be no doubt. But then the card came up and I took another turn. But I don't know if it's fulfillment that I yearn. That's kind of cool. I like Steve's lyrics a lot of the time when he starts talking about real life. And as far as the guitar solo goes, I wrote that it's another brilliant Adrian solo that you can almost sing along to. It's another mini composition unto itself. Over to you, Harrison.
All right, Different World. What a great way to kick off this disc. Up-tempo, out-and-out rocker. I do think that chorus one, the Tell Me What You Can See, that lower one, does fall a bit flat compared to the energy of the rest of the song. But when it goes right into chorus two, where Bruce is reaching for the sky, then, yeah, I love that. It's great. The dual guitar harmony is sublime. I love Different World.
Indeed.
Nice and concise.
And I echo your sentiments about the Dance of Death compared to this album. It's a much, much better vocal performance, much more, he sounds much more into it.
Yeah, he does. Up next, we have Smith and Harris with Dickinson this time on These Colors Don't Run, Uncle Meat.
Well, this may be an unpopular opinion. I find this to be the weakest song on the album. I find it to be very generic Maiden.
I'm sure Sharon Osbourne would agree with you.
Oh, really? Okay,
this song was inspired by that incident.
No, I didn't know that. That's funny. Not that there's anything negative about this track. I just find nothing particularly what's the word I'm looking for? Original of this track. It seems like a cut up of different Maiden tropes put together. I wouldn't call it a negative song. I wouldn't call it a bad song. I just say it's the only track on the album that I find nothing special about. But good song.
Okay. I feel quite the opposite. This is one of my favorites on the album. A song about going to war. And that's a recurring theme, the war theme. It'll come up several times on this album. This is the first of them. To me, I found every riff and every guitar part to be awesome. I thought Bruce's vocal was awesome. I liked the time change on this song. I even like the chorus. The phrase is a sort of a patriotic call. These colors don't run refers to both the flag and bravery. These colors don't run from cold bloody war. I really like it. And I also really like Nico's drum beats on this one. I thought that this song couldn't exist in the form that it's in without Nico. And yeah, over to you, Harrison.
Yeah, I'm sort of halfway in between. I do quite like this song, but it's not one of my favorites on the album. I do love the slow building intro it has before it gets going. It's got a real stomp along chorus with Bruce once again soaring. I think I'd go as far as to say that this is the last truly phenomenal vocal performance we got from Bruce this album. That's not to say he's been bad on the following albums, but I think this was like as I said, the last truly phenomenal performance. I'm not a huge fan of that sort of like that weird motif, that do whatever it was that like pops up before the solo, and it pops up a few other times because I think it really just kills the momentum. I would have preferred if all the solos just flowed straight into one another.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle.
Okay, I will just say just quickly about this song as well. I think one of the reasons that I find it less exciting than the rest has a lot to do with there's kind of almost too much war going on lyrically on this album, in my opinion. But and that might be part of why I don't find it necessarily special compared to the rest of the songs. Maybe.
See, I think it gets more over the top war song later on, but we'll talk about that.
Oh, it does. But there's better examples of it. Is
okay.
Kind of more what I mean.
Okay. I follow you. Meet Brighter Than a Thousand Suns, written again by Smith, Harris, and Dickinson.
Okay, I labeled a few songs as epic, like a big asterisk on it, and this is the first of those tracks. Nico McBrain, this is your album. This is your shining album. I truly believe it's his best drumming on any album they've ever done. I know that's saying a lot because it's like their 16th album at the time, and it's a lot of albums, but I just find it's incredible incredible Nico. It's all over the part, and like there is like I really love the breakdown of the out of the darkness, just a repeat of it, and then in the background you got it's a great build. It's a great way to make the song more exciting. There's a gorgeous Bruce chorus to it. It ramps up like every line, and as a staunch atheist such as myself, I love the line of E equals MC squared, how we made God with our hands. And I'm like, yeah, I really like that line. It's just it's surrounded by great diverse riffing, and what a song. One absolutely one of the highlights on the album, bar none.
So I usually don't go off the beaten track on these shows, but check out Bruce Dickinson's album Tyranny of Souls. There's a song called Navigate the Seas of the Sun where he talks about Einstein. Einstein had that quote one time, God doesn't roll dice, and Bruce turned that into a lyric. If God is rolling dice and Einstein doesn't mind the chance, we'll navigate the seas of the sun. And in regards to Nico, on the DVD portion of this, Nico is picked as the MVP by Bruce Dickinson on this album. Track 3, Brighter Than a Thousand Suns. This refers to the Manhattan Project, and Bruce wants to convey the terror of what that kind of power means. Cold fusion and fury, unholy union, Trinity reformed, yellow sun and its evil twin. There's a direct reference to Oppenheimer. Whatever would Robert have said to his God? How about he made war with the sun? E equals MC squared. You can't relate how he made God with our hands. So equating the power of fusion and nuclear fission with that of God and creation. Musically, I find this to be a brilliant riff, perfect verses. Adrian's solo to me sounds a tad experimental, which I really like. A little different for him. So, kudos to Adrian. It's just as composed as we're used to hearing, but he's technique-wise, he's doing something skittery. That's the word I'll use, is skittery. I love it. Over to you, Harrison, for Brighter Than a Thousand Suns.
This is an amazing, amazing song. It's really heavy by Maiden standards. I mean, that riff, that main riff. I mean, Maiden are never what I would call traditionally heavy. I wouldn't really call them that, compared to, say, Judas Priest. But I think this album is absolutely Maiden at their heaviest, without a doubt. You've got these razor-sharp dual guitars. Bruce is really sinking his teeth into the vocals. One of my favorite vocal performances of this song is the bury your morals and bury your dead, bury your head in the sand part. I just love this song. I really wish they could play it live a bit more.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, we move on to track 4, and Yannick gets his first writing credit on the Gers Harris The Pilgrim, and in my opinion, you can really tell by the riff that it's a Gers. But over to you, Uncle Meat.
Yeah, great tune. I really like. Again, I really like the Nico stuff. There's a few parts where our Nico's doing the halftime splash stuff. It's a little more subdued for Nico, but it's almost nice to. It's nice as a change for him to, slow it down a little bit at times, and it just makes everything else pop. I really like the Bruce pre-chorus in there with the octave difference, between his voices, just really lets it stand out. Great track. Definitely a good example of Gers, making a difference, and great song.
We get more Gers haters on this channel. I don't understand it. I think this is a fine example of a great composition. According to the DVD, he wrote this as 2 separate songs, and Steve kind of put the strongest elements of both together into one song. And, it's a generalized story about the Pilgrims going to America. It's fast paced. As I said, it sounds like a Gers song. It just has his trademark. I don't know how to describe it, but it has an exotic Gers guitar lick. The chorus brings in some melody. Now give us our holy sign, changing the water into wine. Love that. The verses are that kind of rapid fire type that I find so tasty when Bruce does it. He really knows how to make a performance out of it. Here I wrote that he's spitting the words like bullets. And I think later on when we get into the DVD, Bruce talks a lot about his approach to singing on this album. And I think that what I just said there will come back. Harrison, over to you for The Pilgrim.
Yeah, I like The Pilgrim. It's a good song. It's certainly overshadowed, in my opinion, by a lot of other tracks on this album. I'm not a huge fan of the doubled up Bruces at that one part, but at least one of them is doing high notes.
Okay. I like that it's a difference on the album. Like it's the only time on the album that he does that. It's almost like it's not harmony. It's like a double octave with himself. It's neat. It's neat. It's a different approach.
Okay, this next song returns Smith, Harrison, Dickinson to the writing pen. They really dominate this album, those guys, but everybody except for Nico gets a credit on the album. I'm going to have a lot to say about this song, but I'll just start by saying it's about the D-Day invasion. So, Uncle Meat, take it away on The Longest Day.
Well, we haven't mentioned Steve Harris yet, and I wanted to mention, and not really his bass work, because his bass work just seems to be a constant A+ in the whole. There's no high moment, there's no low moment. It's just all effing great. But the one thing that is, and I found it kind of interesting from the DVD, is that it's Harris talking about how he kind of forces lyrics on Dickinson at times and everything. And I find it interesting because it reminds me of trying to put lyrics to Max the Axe songs. And there were times where I'm like, okay, wait a second. Okay, I love that all these lyrics go back to back, but like, you got to give me time to have a breath. But I'm in The Longest Day, and I looked it up, 4.5 minutes of the song. It literally starts, and it's 4.5 minutes of nothing but lyrics. There is no break at all. And I can imagine that Bruce would have probably at times kind of had a little bit of I got to sing this song again. Just because it's just so full. Like one, like remembering all the lyrics, and two, being able to do this while you're jumping around like a maniac, like he does, because he is the showman. There's nothing against the song. It just kind of reminded me of it brought me back to some PTSD moments on stage.
If you read Bruce's book, there's a chapter around Peace of Mind where he goes into a bit of detail about how Steve Harris came up with lyrics, and he says that basically for Steve, lyrics exist first in a poetic sense, then as words, and lastly as things that are made to be able for a human being to wrap their tongue around. And the part of that is because Steve would basically whistle his vocal melodies like a cheery postman, as Bruce put it, as he was singing without, and then he said as time went, Steve and I sort of worked out a bit of an understanding about you got to give the singer time to breathe and stuff, but it looks like every now and then old habits come up.
And I couldn't have said any better than what you just said it.
Well, Bruce said it, I just repeated it.
And also I love the part in the pre-solos where that riff that's almost like a Zero the Hero riff, like just kind of unmaideny, like a kind of like a low plotting kind of riff that comes back a couple times. So yeah, I like the song a lot. I wouldn't call it one of the best tracks, but I put it about midway, solid track.
Okay. I'd put it in the top 5 on the album. In the past, in the Peace of Mind episode, for example, we went into some detail on some of the movies and the historical events that these songs are related to. So I'm going to talk a bit about The Longest Day, 1962 American epic war film starring John Wayne. It was based on Cornelius Ryan's 1959 nonfiction book of the same name about the D-Day landings in Normandy. There are references to Operation Overlord in the lyrics. The longest day was a quote from General Rommel, who said on the first day of the battle, it was the longest day. General Rommel, obviously being on the German defending side. The Allies must be stopped. On the beach was their, and of course that failed, thankfully. The opening scenes in the movie show Rommel inspecting the beaches and speaking that quote about the longest day. Now, there's a funny scene, or at least it might seem funny to us, in the movie. The beach master, the British beach master who was tasked with organizing the vehicles on the beach, was accompanied by his English bulldog, Winston. But that is factually true. My grandfather remembered seeing him on the beach, and he actually did have his little British bulldog with him. That is factually true, and that is in the movie. My grandfather also said that The Longest Day is one of the most accurate war movies, if not the most accurate war movie. And apparently there was a song prior to this called The Longest Day, written and sung by Paul Anka, and he appeared in the movie The Longest Day. So there you go. Adrian gets chills from Bruce's words in the song, according to the DVD. And Bruce wanted the words to sound like the action of the battle. He wanted that to come from his vocal. The song begins with the rhythmic strumming of Steve's bass, that really nice adds so much tension. And then there's a light but also tense Smith guitar part that it's very soft. It's very softly played. It begins as if you're in the gloom of the darkness as these guys are rolling onto the beach. You know, you can almost feel it. The song builds, and you can imagine these guys, these kids, really in these barges, just ready to land on the beach. Some of them to their death, and others to victory. But the song gave Adrian chills, and I admit it gave me chills as I wrote the notes. I really liked the line, "All the water is red with the blood of the dead," because that was, again, factually true. What heroes those boys were. That's all I have to say about The Longest Day.
All right, I feel similar to Mead. I'd put it about midway if ranking the album songs, although Midway was a completely different battle. So much of this song is quintessential Iron Maiden, a soaring Bruce vocal performance, and the solos and harmonies are just... And I find that this album also has like this sort of mid-2000s crunch that feels really like of Maiden at the time. Like I listen to it and I feel like I'm listening to Iron Maiden. If I know I am listening to Iron Maiden, so I should be feeling like I'm listening to Iron Maiden, but
capital I, capital M. That's
yes.
Yeah.
With the jaggedy logo.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I consider this the start of side 2. It sounds like a fresh side to me, but Out of the Shadows, written by Bruce and Steve. Over to you, Meat.
Well, like I said, I put little asterisks on what I felt were the great moments on the album, and this is the second song that I put an asterisk on because I do love this song. I in ways it might be my favorite song on the whole album because it's such a departure, and it's just it's almost like this. It's very power ballady at times, which is not really. Like even like a song like Revelations, I wouldn't call that power ballad. It's ballady and gets power. This is more of a power ballad kind of thing with like, I love the feel of it. I found it interesting that on the DVD that Nico had said that he had problems getting this song down. And I believe he said he was using a drum machine or something to I can't remember if that's exactly what he said, but I know that there was some problems that he had, and then finally, like, he loved what came out of it and loved what the caveman Kevin Shirley made him sound like. Gibson, Adrian Smith, you can hear the Gibson soul solos. Such a great, rich tone in his solos and his little licks, and I absolutely love the. There's a middle point, maybe about a 2/3 point, where it's like chorus guitar and acoustic with a it pops on headphones. I love it so much. I I just think that this song stands out because it is very a matter of life and death to me, and that's what makes it great. So this is definitely a huge highlight of the album for me.
Wow, it's almost like you read my notes. Yeah, and I think what you just said is also why it makes a good side 2 opener as well. Apparently, the song is about birth, Out of the Shadows. It's about birth, according to the DVD. And apparently, it was Bruce's song, and Steve helped a bit on the chorus. I wrote everything that you said. The guitar solo has a bluesy feel, and there's that unexpected acoustic guitar in the middle section. I found Steve's bass line very melodic and prominent. These are features that, we haven't kind of heard since Prodigal Son in some ways. But it's a very nice use of different sections with different melodies. And I thought it was a really well-made song, really well put together song. Over to you, Harrison, on Out of the Shadows.
Yeah, I do appreciate the softer sections here to provide a brief reprieve from all the heaviness on the rest of the album, because this album can admittedly be a bit dense when you're listening to it in one sitting.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear that. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why the song is special.
Yeah.
Variety.
Okay, track 7. So finally, we get to the first single on the album, The Reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg. We'll take a closer look at these singles as we get to the B-sides. But who is Benjamin Brieg? Well, on the DVD, Steve teases and says, well, that would be telling. But there was a biography on the internet, and I'm going to attempt to read it before we go to Uncle Meat. It looks like it's going to be a bit of a tongue twister. But here we go. The biography stated that Benjamin Brieg was born on the 3rd of September 1939, which is the date that France, England, New Zealand, and Australia declared war on Germany after their invasion of Poland. He was born in London, England. Both of his parents died in a still unexplained house fire in 1947, and Benjamin was sent to an orphanage. He was smart, but very much a loner. Here he took up a fascination with religion and thought of becoming a clergyman. He was never able to settle in with any of the 3 families that fostered him, and after he turned 10, he began to experience nightmares. He began to show artistic talent and made many paintings, which have since been lost. It is presumed that Benjamin destroyed them himself. His paintings were disturbing to others, and when asked what inspired the drawings, he said he painted what he saw in his nightmares. He left the orphanage in 1954 and got a job engraving tombstones at a funeral home. Of course. Why wouldn't he have done that? He lived alone, and by this time his interest in religion had become almost an obsession. Traveling the world from 1960 to 1970, he moved back to England in 1971. He took up a job at the International Institute of Paranormal Investigation, of course.
There's an International Institute of Paranormal.
Of course. Yes. And over the next 6 years, wrote at least 4 books on occult practices in countries he'd visited. He disappeared on the 18th of June, 1978, and still has not been found. The cousin of Benjamin, who created the webpage, asked anyone who knew anything about his whereabouts to contact him. And according to the final chapter of the story, one man did. The cousin arranged a meeting with the man that was set to take place on 14th August 2006. And I think that's the release date of the probably the release date of the single, because the album was released on the 25th of August. So I'm guessing that's the release date of the single.
The cousin also put up one of the paintings he'd done, and it's meant to be like an Eddie face.
Right. So it's not that interesting of a story. I'm kind of almost sorry that I spent all that time reading it.
Yeah, and if I had to guess the date in 78 when he died, it would be the date that Derek Riggs painted the first Electric Matthew Says Hello.
Yeah, I'm sure that every date that's given there is significant in some way, but really it's not that interesting a story. And it's the question, who is Benjamin Brieg, is far more interesting than the actual answer that we are given. But it's a great song, and I'm not going to take up any more time with that. Before we go to Uncle Meat, Murray Harris, The Reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg.
Well, I found it interesting that you have this huge preamble about Benjamin Brieg and going on and on. And you said it's not really that interesting of a story. Well, this may be an unpopular thing because it was a single, but it's not really that interesting, this song. It's not one of my favorite songs on the album. It really isn't. The one thing that I noted about it, and I noted about it today, I listened again, and I noted it like the last couple of times that I listened to it. The riff sounds a lot like "Stranger in a Strange Land" to me. It just has a very similar feel slowy. I don't know. Not that I don't like Stranger in the Strange Land, because I love that song, but I don't really find much that interesting on it. It's the only Dave Murray writing credit on the album, which seems a little odd to me. But I'm sure that especially Harrison can probably say as well. Like, there isn't a lot of Dave Murray writing credits on Maiden.
Yes,
stuff.
if you get 2 on an album, it's like, oh, this is a special treat. This is.
Yeah,
Dave is very sporadic with his writing.
I don't know if you guys will agree with me that it's one of the, not a bad song, just not one of the more exciting songs on the album. That's really pretty much all I have to say about that.
I'm afraid I can't agree.
Okay.
But Harrison, if I remember correctly, Murray didn't write anything on the X Factor until we got to the bonus tracks, right?
I think that sounds about right,
Yeah.
but I can't. Maybe he was involved. No, actually, no, Unbeliever was Bailey Gers.
I remember when the song Deja Vu from Somewhere in Time came out, which was a Murray co-write. Iron Maiden were quoted as saying that Dave wrote a song every 3 years.
And that song
was always special when Dave wrote a song.
Special. And see, I feel that way about this song. And to me, I love the riff. That burn it, that stuttery riff. It's so good. I love it so much. Apparently Dave had 3 different song ideas, and Steve kind of helped them hone them down into one song, Reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg. I don't know. I just really love this song. I called it Unstoppable, a top Maiden track of any era. When Davey writes a riff, it's usually something unique and powerful, and also truly a great Bruce performance on the lead vocals. So we have to agree to disagree. We'll let Harrison be the tiebreaker.
There you go.
I'm in full agreement with Mike. I think this is one of my top 3 songs on the album, and I think it's one of Maiden's best. Maiden are not traditional riffers, but I still think this is one of their best riffs of all time. This song is heavy as hell when it gets going, and I keep repeating myself, but Bruce's voice just absolutely soars. That long, drawn-out note at the end is fantastic. I love this song so much.
Now, one thing I want to ask the Meat Man. Steve Harris wrote the song called For the Greater Good of God. And if you were handed that song and that chorus to sing, how would you have handled that? For the greater good of God. It's so fast.
It is. And but it does have a break in there. It has a break in there. I think like one of the things that I have written down, I'll read it verbatim. What a great later emerging repeat chorus. And this is another one of these songs that I have an asterisk because this song is fantastic. I love the Bruce melodic verses, just really, really well done. I love the Dave Murray Strat Cat leads. You can hear such a difference between the Gibson Les Paul and now the Fender Strat. Just lovely leads. And I really like the Harris lyrics on this. Like it's like he's almost forcing Bruce into a corner, and it's making Bruce's performance even better. What a great song! What a great track! I would definitely put this as a candidate for best song on the album.
For me, it is the best song in the album. I don't have a lot to say about it though, because I found it hard to encapsulate into words, but I loved the bass intro, and Harrison knows I'm not always fond of Steve bass intros. For whatever reason, this one's completely different from an X Factor bass intro. Maybe it's because it has more effects to it. I don't know.
I think the production on this album is better than the X Factor.
Yeah,
I don't think it's controversial to say that.
It's more.
No can surely rock this album.
It's definitely less dry, less stripped and bare. That's for sure. But this song has many different sections that kind of work together into one of Maiden's greatest unsung classics. I didn't really recognize what Meat said about the late recurring chorus, but it's true. You do have to wait quite a while before you get there. Nico's drum work on this is incredible during those verses. outstanding drum work by Nico. As far as I'm concerned, he writes drum parts, you know.
Exactly. That's very interesting because I didn't write that down. That's a very good point. I find it almost a crime that Nico has no writing credits on this album. He probably has no writing credits on most albums.
He's none.
Yeah, he's just got the one on Dance of Death where they gave it to him because they felt that the drums were an integral part of the song.
Well, then he should have a damn writing credit on 3/4 of this album because that's how good he is in this album. He is writing parts on that album. On this album,
Nico is a self-professed lazy git who just goes in there and does it. Doesn't bother about writing songs.
That's funny because I recently saw there's a new Nico podcast he does with another guy, and I watched an hour and a half conversation with Nico and Alex Van Halen, and they both kind of talked about how they like to just go in and do their parts and leave. It's very interesting.
Yeah. For the Greater Good of God is a really awesome song. It's a really epic song once it gets going. I love the chorus, and it's a chorus that gets better every time you hear it, and it does come back a few times. I didn't come to fully appreciate this song though until we heard it on the Knights of the Dead live album from the Legacy of the Beast tour, where it just stood out as this incredibly epic monolith that really held its own against the other songs on that album in a way that I think Brighter Than a Thousand Suns and Benjamin Brieg would overshadow it on this album.
One more thing to add here is that when you're singing lines that are kind of pompous, like, please tell me now what life is, please tell me now what war is, please tell me now what love is, again, tell me what life is. If you're not singing that with the kind of passionate, almost desperation that Bruce is singing it with, you're going to sound like a jackass. But Bruce is singing those lines, asking those questions as if his life depends on it. You know, as if he's absolutely desperate for those answers. And that's the only reason to me that those lines really work. Because like when I said them aloud, they sounded kind of silly. But when Bruce sings them, they're anything but. Getting closer to the end, Smith, Harrison, Dickinson return with The Lord of Light. Uncle Meat, what did you think of this one?
This is the second last song on the album. And it's the last time that I put a little asterisk for how much I effing like the song. I love this song. Great galloping riffage at times. I found it interesting that that Gers on the DVD explained that he felt it was the most progressive song on the album, and it surely is. Kevin surely is. Yes, it is really, really, really impressive. The changes, and we all love Iron Maiden, but even if you love Iron Maiden, you can honestly say a lot of times Iron Maiden can be a predictable songwriting band. You kind of know what's coming up. If you know Maiden well, even when you hear a song for the first time, you're like, I think I know what's coming up next. And a lot of times you're right. Not that it's bad, but that's just what they do. This song is complete opposite of that. It is very unpredictable and very surprising. Very different than every song on the album to me. And that I'd say in the top 2 or 3 songs in the album, lovely stuff. That's really all I got to say about it. I love it.
Well, Nico considers this to be the most progressive song on the album.
Okay, sorry, I thought it was Gers, but yeah, go on.
But that's very interesting. Regardless, apparently the Lord of Light is Lucifer. I didn't tweak to that when I heard the lyrics. With this and the Greater Good of God before it, we've got a lot of sort of questioning of religion that might have been controversial a couple of decades earlier. This song has a soft opening and then a blazing riff, and off we go. It's a gallop. They acknowledge that, hey, I guess we're going to lean into this. We're going to do a gallop. We're going to go for it. It really starts moving, though, after that intro. And I find the chorus to be a whole other thing, but it all works together. So thumbs up on the Lord of Light. I really like that chorus.
Okay, let's see if Harrison too can use the word gallop. Let's see if we can do a 3-part gallop here.
Yeah, I won't use that. I didn't have that word in my notes. Lord of Light is my favorite song on the album, which is no mean feat considering there is both Brighter Than a Thousand Suns and the reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg on here. Maiden have at times been accused of sometimes being meandering, sometimes putting too much into their songs, going on and on and on, and making them abnormally long for no reason. This song is the antithesis of that. There is so much crammed into that 7 minutes 25 seconds, including about a minute and a half of this sort of quiet intro. And I love that fast break riff when it gets going, that and I love how that's echoed earlier, much gentler in the intro itself. The chorus is amazing. I've said it before about songs in this album. I'll say it again. Bruce's voice soars. One of my favorite Iron Maiden choruses. That first solo is absolutely iconic, or at least it is to me. So my experience with Lord of Light is, so back in 2018, 2019, Maiden had this mobile game out called Legacy of the Beast, and I did play it. And there was a stage based on Lord of Light, the song. And so the music that played during that song was that fast break riff, and it was that first solo. So that first solo in Lord of Light has come to, at least to me, to be just incredibly iconic. So when I heard it for the first time in the song, when I first listened to the album way back, I just went nuts. And there's a line in this song, "Revenge is living in the past." Now that will have more significance a bit later on.
So would you say that when you played the video game, were you purposely dying on that stage so you could keep hearing the song?
No, but it was difficult, so I certainly got to hear it a lot.
Good.
But I always looked forward to hearing that that fast break.
All right, we are at the end of the album with a really interesting closer written by Gers Harris, second Gers Harris composition on the album, The Legacy. Uncle Meat, what's your take on this very unorthodox closer?
Yes, great. Again, I like the variety. There are certain points on this album that I love the variety of this album. It's one of the reasons that this album is so outstanding, because I know that there's other Maiden albums that it goes from A to Z, and everything in the middle might as well just be different A's and different Z's. This is not like this. And I really like that this song, more so than the other Gers track, The Pilgrim, seems to really, really show Yannick's personality on this song. I wrote here that Bruce is so pretty, and it works with the 12-string gorgeousness. And I really do like the sound of this song. And there's also like a really notey riff change at about 2/3 of the way in with an energy burst, and it's very nice because it's so different than the very beginning of the song, and how the song ends about the 20 seconds the album ends with, again, like the just slow. It's a perfect way to end an album that deserves kind of a nice little quaint ending after a very abrupt beginning to the album. So another great song, The Legacy.
It's a brilliant song. Now, the basic idea was Yannick's, and he was trying to write a song without a chorus, apparently, was the impetus for this song. Now, there's a line in this song, and I want your feedback, but a strange yellow gas has played with their minds. Did you guys interpret that about being World War I trench warfare gas?
That's what I thought.
Okay. So in World War I, they used chlorine gas, mustard gas, and if you were gassed, if it hit your trench, your first line of defense was literally to pee into a cloth and breathe through that. It would neutralize the gas. But my great-grandfather was a Canadian soldier in the First World War, and nobody in the family ever talked about it, but apparently he had physical scars on his face from the chlorine gas. So it's kind of like one of those haunting memorials. So I don't know like what kind of effect it would have had on their minds. But that line is in there. Strange yellow gas has played with their minds. And Bruce sings it in this haunting lullaby kind of voice. And it's just really, this song is very haunting, although it does go through a lot of different sections. The intro is kind of medieval and folksy in a way, but then it builds into an electric song after a tense section of fast picking. The vocal melody is quite different from Maiden. Bruce seems to be pushing his voice into a higher register, but it works brilliantly. Like he's still really, really strong in that register on this album. Goes into a faster riff, transforming it midway. Every section's brilliant. But I think that the lyrics are interesting. What kind of legacy do you want to leave? And I think that's all I have to say about the legacy. I think it's one of my favorite Maiden closers, though, at the end of the day. It might be one of my favorite Maiden closers. So over to you, Harrison.
Yeah, this is a fine song, and it does a good job as a closer. But for me, anything that follows Benjamin Brieg, For the Greater Good of God, and Lord of Light has to be like the best thing Maiden's ever written, or else it is going to pale in comparison.
Wouldn't you think, though, that it's nice that it's not that, and that it's a departure from what you just heard?
I think I would have appreciated it a bit more elsewhere on the album. I think Lord of Light could have made a fine closer. And in my mind, Lord of Light is the closer, and then it's like, oh, hang on, yeah, there's one more song.
So, Uncle Meat, would you like to tell us some thoughts about the legacy of this album?
Yes, I would actually. I look at this album as a very special moment in Maiden's career. My opinion is going to be vastly different than both of you, and I'm sure, well, I know for a fact. I look at this album, to me, as the best thing they've done since Seven Sons of Seventh Son. And I also look at it that they haven't done anything since that comes even close to it. Now, that might have a lot to do with, and the argument could be made that this album and the previous album are kind of like examples of what became a problem for Maiden. Like, songs became too long, I think, at times. Like, for example, Rhyme on the Edge of Mariner, such a great track. But one of the reasons it's such a great track is that it's so different than everything else on that album. And now it's like, there's 3 or 4 epics per album. It kind of makes the epics a little less special. I don't know. I think that this album is the best representation of the 3 guitar players that has ever been recorded. I just think that that the trio guitars are done so well on this album that it was the best thing they've done as a trio guitar band. So that's my opinion.
Well, your opinion's a bit stronger than mine, and Harrison and I have to hold our cards a bit closer to our chest because we still have 3 studio albums that we want to do in a less spoilery way. But I will say that this is definitely my favorite of the reunion era albums so far. So, to me,
this album is in my top 5 Out Maiden albums of all time. But one of the next 3 also is.
There you go.
So stay tuned, folks. Don't quit on us yet. We have a lot of bonus tracks and B-sides to cover. And Pete was telling us earlier offline that he was having a hard time even finding any of these. But we're going to talk about every single one of them. We're going to show you where you can buy them because we have them. But first, before we go to the B-sides, there were 2 songs that didn't make it to B-sides that we would have loved to have heard. One of which is mentioned in the DVD, but I'll let Harrison tell you how he knows. But it's Angel of Death by Thin Lizzy. Meat and I would both love to hear them cover Angel of Death, one of my favorite Lizzy tunes.
Yeah.
But Harrison, tell them how you know that.
Yes, so if you watch the DVD documentary, some very eagle-eyed chap on Reddit took a screenshot of a shot of Kevin Shirley's PC with a drop-down of all the songs they were recording for the album. So like bang, 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 first 10, Space Truckin', Hocus Pocus. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of ourselves. And then there's Tush by ZZ Top, which they've played live on stage a few times, which you actually see them jamming that in the DVD footage itself, and then Angel of Death, the Thin Lizzy song. Assumedly, if there was going to be a 3rd single from this album, these 2 tracks would have made it onto the B-sides, presumably. I'm assuming that they were shelved for that reason and not, say, quality reasons, or maybe there was some sort of issue with Massacre because it didn't end up on Best of the B-sides, and they're like, well, we don't want to have that sort of issue again with Angel of Death. We don't know. I'm assuming if there was a 3rd single, we would have.
So if you do have the version with the DVD, you can hear them playing Tush for a minute or 2, and it sounds pretty good. Like, Bruce is clearly having fun, but for whatever reason, Adrian says that he refused to play on it, and surely enough, when they're filming it in the studio, he's not there. I don't know what his issue with the song was, but he says he refused, and he laughs. But speaking of laughs, we're going to start with a pretty comedic B-side here, a very rare one, in fact, and that is their cover of Hocus Pocus by Focus. It is on the Different World DVD single, and fortunately, this comes with a really useful 2007 calendar that I'm not going to unfold. But that is what this release looks like. There are 2 tracks that are exclusive to this DVD single. The first of which is Hocus Pocus. Meat, did you listen to it? Did you find it?
Yes, I did. And
okay.
Now it was already mentioned that Space Trucker, so it's not. I'm not spoiling anything. When I saw that there were the 2 covers, I remember thinking, "Wow, that Hocus Pocus, that is a chance to be not very good." I'm like, "Oh, the Space Trucker. Well, that's going to be a cool cover." Then I listened to them and completely flipped. The Hocus Pocus, what a great effing cover. Covers are supposed to be something that, or at least the best covers are when you take an aspect of the song and change it drastically. And that's what they've done here. They don't have yodeling on it. They do the yodeling with guitars. And I love I love the Nico. I love you and you love me. And it's the whole thing. It's such in the spirit of the song, but it's not what they do in the song. And Nico's drum work on the song are great. This is one of my favorite Maiden covers ever, just because it's so original. I loved it.
It's truly a shame that it's only available on this obscure DVD single that can only be played on PAL players, which I'm lucky enough to have.
Yeah, imagine trying to rip the song off that to get it on your car mix CD.
Yeah, it ain't easy. I've done it, but it ain't easy. Yeah, Meat was right. One of my favorite parts is when Nico sings, "If you love me, and I love you, and I love you more than you love me, ooh, what can you say?" And then they just go back into the riff. And you're right. Yeah, they do the yodeling part on the guitar. It's great. It is so great.
It's beautiful.
Being a big Nico fan, and I was such a huge fan of everything that he brought with his sense of humor to the band. And you know what? I forgot to mention something at the very start of this show, which is this album, Matter of Life and Death, begins with Nico going, "Oi!" I can't believe I forgot to mention that, but
did the concerts.
Yeah. Oh, that's great too, man. But this episode is probably going to continue turning into a Nico love fest, and Hocus Pocus by Focus is an essential Maiden cover. I encourage you to do what you can to get it in your ears.
So for me, the best covers fall into one of 3 categories. They're either a complete transformation of the song into a completely different sound or style. They're either a realization of the potential that the song had in the first place, or they are taking the song and making it sound quintessentially like the band that is covering it. And this is Hocus Pocus falls into the latter category, the third category, that being sounding like an Iron Maiden version of Hocus Pocus. I love this. It's heavied up. It's in Iron Maiden style. I love the original. I love this version. The only one of these singles that I have physically is this Different World DVD single, because I wanted the live B-side and Hocus Pocus. Now, it's not my favorite Nico lead vocal contribution, but legally I cannot complain about any sort of vocals in a song called Hocus Pocus, because it's like the original had yodeling and whistling, and like you just don't complain about things in Hocus Pocus. It's going to be weird. That's what you expect. If it sounds weird, it's like, well, then it's true to what the song is. Like, there's probably people out there that probably hate Yannick too. They're like, "Oh, I don't like Nico. He completely ruins the song on this." And I'm like, dude, it's Hocus Pocus. It had yodeling. This was also put down live, presumably in one take, maybe a few overdubs, because at about the 2 minutes 15 mark, you can hear Nico sort of start to sing as the song sort of winds down, but then it keeps going instrumentally, and Nico sort of catches himself and stops.
Yeah, I really love it. I love it so much. So much flavor in the Nico thing. And it was weird because when I thought about this song, And before I pressed play, I was worried that it was going to sound like a joke. And the funny thing is that the parts that I thought was going to be a joke did not sound like a joke. But then Nico inserted his own joke in there, his own original kind of joke in there. What a great example of just a fun band having fun.
And I guarantee you he was ad-libbing all of those words.
For
Guaranteed. Sure. All right, Space Truckin'. So not on a single, not on a B-side, but on a compilation and recorded.
It wasn't even intended to be released. It was a case of they were asked about, hey, there's a Deep Purple tribute album. You got anything for this? And the band weren't in the recording studio at the time. Oh, well, we got that Space Truckin' that we did when we did, like, you know, Tush and Angel of Death. Yeah, let's get that out there, sort of thing. So it would have been, if it weren't for this tribute album, it would have been one of the 3 songs that didn't make any B-sides from this album.
Yeah, interesting.
So this version obviously is the magazine edition with the bonus track, but either version gets you Space Truckin'. And I was kind of underwhelmed. I thought Bruce probably, we all know Ian Gillan is his favorite singer. And I think for him to do Space Truckin', I think was probably wish fulfillment. And I like how he does it faithful to Ian Gillan's performance, you know, with that, you know, just very faithful. And I guess that's about the best I can say about it. I don't think it's up there with Maiden's best covers, but it's faithful.
I think it's a big ball of meh. I honestly, I don't think they spent much time on the recording of it, to be honest. I think they just whipped it off. There's nothing special about it. I really liked what Harrison had to say with the 3 labels of criteria for covers. And you know what? It's not an example of all 3 that you gave, in my opinion. I think it's a 4th, a big ball of meh. So there you go.
All right, so I wasn't underwhelmed. I will concede to you the point. It doesn't fall in any of the 3 categories for what I consider the best cover. I like what Mike said. It does sound quite faithful to what a latter-day Ian Gillan performance would sound like of the song. It does sound a tad unfinished regarding the production and mixing, but that's probably because it was dredged up out of the archives and they didn't polish it up. I don't think it's bad. I think the performance is all there, and it's a good performance. I love Bruce's little ee-hoo-hoos that similarly to like Ian does. Yeah, like it certainly could have been better, but I'm not underwhelmed. I enjoy listening to it.
Fair.
All right. This next section I have titled "The Most Annoying Assortment of Single B-Sides Ever." And we're just going to start at the top. The first one on my list here is Hallowed Be Thy Name, live from BBC Radio 1 on the Benjamin Briggs CD single and the Different World single on Sanctuary, because there's 2 Different World singles. So here is the Brig CD single that I was talking about. Look at that. Look at that price. Can you imagine that
£2. I wish I could pay £2 for that today.
And I think this is the one on Sanctuary. Nope, it is not. This must be the one on Sanctuary. Yeah. Iron Maiden, Different World on Sanctuary. So this gets you Hallowed Be Thy Name live from the BBC. And I always like a really good BBC live recording because you get a nice clean sound. You know, there's no audience. So you get a live performance, but with clean studio sound.
So I was just going to say, I'm not 100% sure if it's 100% live because, for example, yeah, because you've got some Bruce's overdubbed underneath on one of these songs.
Yes, there are overdubs, but I think the spirit of the basic tracks are all live. It really does sound live, though, in sort of like that Kiss Alive kind of way. The artwork on the single here says, "Here lies a man about whom not much is known," in Benjamin Briggs.
Romanian, I believe, is the language.
There you go. I found that Bruce's performance on this was very passionate but raspy. The 3 guitars sound great in this, you know, live in the studio format. You can really hear the distinction on the 3 guitars. The drum performance by Nico on Hallowed is fantastic. He nails all of Clive's signature drum moments, all of the hooks, faithful to the original. And there's a ripping Yannick Gers guitar solo to boot. So those 2 singles get you Hallowed. Harrison, any thoughts on Hallowed?
This is a real throwback to those 1979 radio rock recordings from the BBC for me. The guitars hit like a freight train here. Bruce, I find he's a tad croaky / hoarse vocally. It's not the worst Hallowed Be Thy Name vocal performance I've ever heard from him, but it's certainly not the best. Although that is unmistakably Mr. Yannick Gers playing that second guitar solo, which is traditionally Adrian Smith's.
Right. They gave it to Yannick to sort of even out the guitar duties live when he rejoined the band.
Mate, did you listen to these songs?
No, I did not, because I could not find them. I do have a question, though, and I think I know the answer. I just want to clarify this. This is completely different than the Hallowed Be Thy Name and I believe the Brighter.
Yeah, this is a different performance, yeah.
They were done at Abbey Road. That is different.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure on that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Abbey Road I'll bring up at the very end of all these B-sides.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we're going to stick with the Different World Sanctuary single, and we're going to go with the Trooper Live, which is also on the 10-inch clear vinyl Benjamin Brieg single. This is a very nice single, and it has this cool sticker with this cool logo on it. We may as well take a look at the Crossbones logo. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So this Trooper, again, BBC recording. It seems a tad fast to me, which is fine. That's cool. That's live. The clarity of the opening guitar harmonies is really awesome. Again, I love these BBC recordings. It's almost like we're almost getting like a new studio version, like live in the studio, but it's got that clarity. And I just love it. I really appreciate these BBC recordings, as you can tell. Again, the three guitars are sounding great.
Yeah. I really love this version of the Trooper. The guitars sound phenomenal. Bruce is sounding really expressive. I honestly think this might rival the original studio version.
Interesting.
Strong. I'm glad you said it, because I didn't have the courage to say it. Sticking with this 10-inch single, we have Run to the Hills, also live at the BBC. Bruce sounds stronger here because he's not singing Run to the Hills at the end of a long Iron Maiden set. You know, they're in the studio, they're in this kind of controlled environment, they're only doing a few songs. So he sounds stronger here than he often does when we hear live versions of Run to the Hills. So for that reason, I think that this is a good one to get. Even though there are a million versions out there, and it's like, which one do you want? But for that reason, him being a little bit stronger for a later version of Run to the Hills, that's the go-to.
Yes, I'd agree with Mike. It's Run to the Hills. We've heard it a million times. There's not much you can do with it. There's nothing new to say about it. However, Bruce is hitting some really high notes here on the chorus. Like Mike said, of the latter day versions, this is the go-to version. And Bruce has a little cheeky nod to he's like, scream for me, listeners at home.
That's awesome.
I didn't pick up on that. Okay, Different World. The other single, this one here. This is the EMI CD single. Scream for Me, Copenhagen. We have Iron Maiden live in Copenhagen. Nothing particularly special here in comparison to other versions from this lineup. And Lord knows we have a lot of versions from this lineup. I did note that it's nice when you can hear Steve Harris's vocal in the mix. I always like hearing the background vocals of Steve or Adrian or whoever happens to be singing them. And when you get that, I enjoy it. So I guess I enjoyed this version of Iron Maiden for that reason, out of all the 78 versions of Iron Maiden that we've talked about on this show.
So this is the longest version of the song Iron Maiden out there, and there's a very good reason for it. Because after the second verse, and sort of the guitars do their bit, everything stops. Music stops playing, and you hear lots of this artillery noises and grinding, and what you can't see going on. And I think it's a real shame that we haven't got pro shot video released physically yet, because this big tank is rising up backstage, and then the gun swings across, and then Eddie comes out, and then the music starts playing in the do 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 do. But we have to sit through like a minute of like grinding noises in the audio here that we don't get to see this awesome tank eddy in the back. So despite the fact that we have to sit through the lengthy sound effects associated with it, so I wouldn't have minded a single edit for this B-side that removed that so that we could focus on the music. If they wanted to give us a live version of Iron Maiden with all this tank noise, they should have put a DVD video on here so that we could see the tank, because it is such an awesome backstage eddy there.
Unusually harsh words from Harrison, but I don't have a counter argument. He's right. They should have included a video. Although I'd suggest that if you want to make a single edit, just make it yourself. We go back now to the DVD single. Here it is. And this is, as Harrison mentioned before, the home of the first ever officially released song from The Matter of Life and Death, which is Reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg live in Copenhagen. Opens very slow with dramatic guitars by Adrian. Then it breaks into a groove. And Nico mentions the word groove on the DVD himself. So, you know, if you can picture Iron Maiden grooving, that's what they're doing on this version of Different World. I noticed that there's some little bits of the vocal where they apply echo to Bruce's voice, like, and I will break free, break free. You know, they do that little echo effect on some of these verses. And if I'm not mistaken, this live version lacks the fake entry, the fake ending and outro, if I'm not mistaken. But
shit, I didn't write down in my notes about that. I just wrote that I love that we get a live version and the riff sounds great live. Sorry, Mead, I've been skipping over you for these live B-sides. If you have anything to say
no,
just pipe up.
I haven't heard them.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost through them. We have yet another release here coming up. This is also live in Copenhagen. This is Fear of the Dark on this Different World 7-inch picture disc single. You have to buy all of this stuff to get it. It's crazy.
So much product.
So much product. So with live version of Fear of the Dark, yet another version. The crowd goes nuts, roaring along with the opening guitar chords. They roar. That's the best word I can find for it. The nicest thing that I can say is it has a lot of energy, and Bruce is putting in 100%, but it's another version of Fear of the Dark. So it's like, yep.
Yeah, this is a good version of Fear of the Dark, but there is not one bit that stands out compared to any of the other versions. It's a perfectly serviceable version of Fear of the Dark. If my Iron Maiden didn't put out a million live albums, you'd listen to this and you'd be like, that's a damn good version of Fear of the Dark, that is. But it's just another version of Fear of the Dark. You listen to it, like, yeah, that was a good version of Fear of the Dark, but you'll never go, I want to listen to the version of Fear of the Dark that's on the Different World 7-inch picture disc because I love that version because of this. No, it's not one of those versions.
Meat will never be driving in my car and say, hey, Mike, is this the 2006 Copenhagen version of Fear of the Dark? No, it's never, it's never going to happen. We do have one more track, which this is where I get a little lecture.
Well, one more B-side, not one more
One more
track.
B-side, correct. I get a little lecture here. We talked about this when we did that live version of the Trooper live in Iceland or wherever it was, Reykjavik. And now we have a live version of Different World live in Aalborg, but it's a digital single only. So here's my copy of Different World live in Aalborg. Now, I wish this was physically released instead of Fear of the Dark, because it's good. It's really good. We now have a second track from Matter of Life and Death officially released live. And Nico starts it off with the oi! I think Bruce could be louder in the mix, but it's fine. Adrian adds some pedal effects to that ringing guitar chime during the riff. I don't know what it is, but Adrian's great with his actual sound and adding effects to it. What's really a gas is to hear Adrian and Steve singing the chorus along with Bruce, because this is one of those rare Iron Maiden choruses where there's backing vocals to go with it. And I really love that. And I like those two guys' voices. I like how it blends with Bruce's. The triple guitar harmony parts are really, really sweet right before the solo. The that part, it sounds great live. The solo itself is so tasty. Really great version, and I'm going to say it, better than the stiffer studio version of Different World. But do you agree, Harrison?
This is it's great energetic version. I'm not sure if it's better or not. Personally, I prefer Bruce on the backing vocals than Steve, but it's very low. They're actually, the chorus in this version is just not as high as on the studio version. Bruce is just a little lower. Still pretty high, but not as high as the studio version. There actually exists pro shot footage of this on YouTube. Slightly worse quality than the B-side release, but you can actually watch this if you were so inclined. Although if you're a Yannick fan, you won't get much because for some reason, like the camera and the director is like everyone but Yannick. Never show Yannick.
The Yannick haters will love that aspect of it.
Oh yeah.
I will say, which just quickly, I will say, I did watch a bootleg version of a bootleg of the Toronto show. I watched a bunch of stuff, and one of the things that I did notice in Different World was that because it was like it was a handheld camera thing, and you know how some sounds just are naturally louder. The Adrian and the Steve Harris background vocals on Different World stood out, and you know what? They were very, very good. Like they didn't sound in any way out of place, and they sounded great. So I was just saying, like from what you were saying there.
Okay, so for this next bit, Harrison's going to wrap up with the last few tracks that I don't have, but he's heard. So take it away from here, Harrison.
Well, first of all, there was a digital-only exclusive Steve Harris interview, which none of us have heard. Presumably, it's gone the same way as that Iceland version of The Trooper, and you can only find it on YouTube anymore.
The reason being
but now,
it was only available as a pre-order. Then it was no longer around. So if you didn't get during the pre-order window, you were out of luck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yes, there are a few extra songs associated with this era. So the first is the reincarnation of Benjamin Reig, and in some regions it's called the Rock Club version, and in other regions it's just called the single edit, and that's exactly what it is. It's not a different mix. It is a promo. Like this is the promo version I've got. You can get it in a jewel case. There's 2 on the back. But this comes with the reincarnation of Benjamin Breig, the full version, and reincarnation of Benjamin Breig Rock Club mix or single edit or whatever you want to call it. And it's basically that. The soft intro is removed and the song just starts with the guitars going. And I know that musical purists will have their opinions on single edits. I know that sometimes more music is good. However, I would say that the Rock Club version of the reincarnation of Benjamin Breig has its uses. And chiefly among them, I would say that when I'm making my car mix CD, I want energy. I don't want to have to be fast forwarding through songs to get to the good part, for lack of a better term. So for me, a version of this song that just starts with the action that I can put on my car mix CD and kick it right off with the energetic part of the song was good. I liked that. It had its uses. Now the disc I've got in my A Matter of Life and Death, I've just put a 2 CD case in it, and there's a disc because I do not like cardboard cases, but unfortunately the jewel case version of this was like twice as expensive. And the very last song associated with this era that you can buy is, as Meat alluded to earlier, there is a Various Artists Live at Abbey Road Series 1 DVD. This is in the mail. I have one bought. I do not have it. That is the curse of this show. Every time we do our prep, I'm like, I want this, and it never arrives in time for the show. So in a future show, you will be able to see this. But the Live at Abbey Road broadcast was interview footage of Iron Maiden with 2 performances. The first one being Brighter Than 1,000 Suns, which I know I would have preferred that on the DVD, because imagine being able to watch Brighter Than 1,000 Suns. But, you know, they put Hallowed Be Thy Name on. It was the safe pick. You can get the performance of Hallowed Be Thy Name. You can buy it on a Various Artists DVD and watch it. It's a live in-studio performance. It's the least animated you'll ever see Yannick Gers.
Yes, very true.
And you'll see Bruce just basically walking around singing. He's got sneakers on and all that. And he's just singing the Hallowed Be Thy Name. I mean, like I said, I would have loved Brighter Than 1,000 Suns, but you can YouTube Iron Maiden Abbey Road and you can find the full broadcast with the interviews with Brighter Than 1,000 Suns on there.
Well, it's kind of interesting because when the album came out, like, probably before I even saw the show, I remember seeing Brighter Than a Thousand Suns and The Hallowed Be Thy Name from Abbey Road on YouTube. And I loved it, especially The Hallowed Be Thy Name. I really loved the performance of that. And then it went away for probably 10 years. I tried for many, many years to still not there. And
the very first time I saw the Abbey Road performances of Iron Maiden, I found out about them, and then I went to YouTube. This was like 7 years ago. They weren't there. I had to go to Daily Motion in order to watch Brighter Than a Thousand Suns live at Abbey Road. And then just in my prep for this show, I re-YouTubed them, and thankfully they are there again.
Yeah, I'm not sure when they reappeared, but it wasn't that long ago. It's weird. I don't know why. Who knows? But they're great performances, though. And you're so right. There's no Yannick Gers going.
He'd be smashing into everyone else, knocking out cameras, destroying the shield around the drums. He has to keep it very restrained.
Not at Abbey Road. I wonder if part of that was that they were in the Mecca and it was kind of more of a respectful Iron Maiden that was doing. I don't know. Who knows?
Well, we're not done talking about DVDs, because if you bought an earlier printing of this album, then you get the bonus DVD. And this is really good. This is really good. It is an hour's worth of material, and I'm going to tell you all about it. First of all, you get the music videos for Benjamin Brieg and Wildest Dreams.
The music video of Benjamin Brieg was originally, if I have this correct, a fan club exclusive that then got leaked to YouTube, which made Maiden quite unhappy.
Wow, that's interesting. It's kind of a weird video. It's got like a collage of band performance videos from different eras, including stuff from the early years DVD that we covered in a prior episode. Including, like, you can see Charlotte, which that was such a really obscure moment from Beast Over Hammersmith. And then there's new footage of Bruce singing and the band performing in the studio. So I liked it. It may be a bit too long for a music video. Back in the old days, I used to edit those things for television. And like I said, you also get Different World, which is a really cool and energetic performance in studio video. So that's good stuff. But the main feature on this is the making of A Matter of Life and Death feature. It's great studio footage behind the scenes with Kevin Shirley and the band in the studio. I noticed that Kevin Shirley has Eddie figures all over the mixing desk. Steve kind of walks us through the album. He says they only gave themselves a couple of weeks to get the songs together. It creates a lot of pressure. The entire process was only 2 months from start to finish. And Steve says the idea was to be as live as possible in the studio. But it looks like it was a heck of a lot of laughs. Nico, once again, says it's the best record they've ever made. Where have I heard that before?
It's his catchphrase. Nico, this is the best album we've ever done, McBrain, as I like to refer to him.
But, you know, it's great that he's so enthusiastic for every new album. That's what you want your band to be. So kudos to him. Interestingly, they basically recorded this album one track at a time, recorded, mixed, one track at a time, which kind of gave them more spontaneity as they went into each new song. Go ahead.
And it seems, at least from what I saw on the DVD, it looks like they recorded them in the order that the album is. That's what it looked like.
They were certainly presented. They were certainly presented to us in that order, but we'd have to go to that freeze frame probably in Kevin Shirley's monitor to know for sure.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. In the Death on the Road DVD, you get a similar behind the scenes of Dance of Death. And we've actually already talked about this, but I'll just briefly run through it for those that missed the episode. So Dance of Death was where Kevin Shirley was like, hey guys, you want to actually start putting this down live, like not just like drums and bass and then this. And in that, I think they did it like Monsegur first, because there was a lot of that earlier on, and then it went into other ones. But so the recording process of A Matter of Life and Death seems to have evolved from Dance of Death. And in that Dance of Death behind the scenes, Kevin Shirley says, you know, you hear about some bands being like, oh, we took like 2 weeks to mix a song. And Kevin's like, no, man, I've got like mixers for Steve, like within 24 hours of us putting the track down.
That's incredible. But yeah, apparently, according to this documentary, they did one track at a time, recorded and mixed. You hear the words prog and progressive come up frequently on this DVD. There was clearly that in mind. Another thing I really enjoyed seeing was Adrian had a gold Gibson Les Paul that he bought when he was 17 years old. And he says it's the first guitar he ever bought, still one of the best. And, here it is on the new Iron Maiden album. Steve has a white bass with a silver pick guard that he says has been on every Iron Maiden album.
And he's changed colors of many times.
Yes. It's been repainted. It's kind of like a.
Well, is that the same tour bass? Because his tour bass that you see on stage, it used to be black, then it went to blue, and then it got the West Ham livery.
I believe that's
so
the one.
He might have a different tour bass to his studio bass.
There's one interesting bit because again we love Nico, but apparently Steve and Nico always have one blazing argument every album. One. And it's because Nico tends to change the songs around a little bit between the rehearsal and the recording. And so him and Steve kind of have a go at it. But this is
there's a joke in Dance of Death when they're talking about the song that Nico co-wrote, and Steve's like, we're always trying to get Nico, we're telling you got to play it straight, man, and stuff. And then he writes his own song and he's finally playing it straight, and we're figures, mate. Yeah.
Well, apparently this is the first album where they didn't argue. So there you go. Really? Nico had a great quote there that I loved. You ready? I love work. I can sit and watch it for hours.
That's
once again.
That sounds like a drummer.
Yeah. Once again, Bruce picks Nico as the MVP on this album, and Nico says he wanted more groove, which we talked about earlier. It's awesome when you see the in-studio stuff. It's awesome hearing Bruce's isolated vocals. It all just gives you more appreciation for his performance. And another thing I really liked is when they're working on the Legacy, you got Steve Harris singing the Legacy as they're working on it. Man, it's so fun being a fly on the wall on that DVD.
A Matter of Life and Death tour, 60 shows over 2006 to 2007. Two very distinct phases of this tour, as we are now getting into with the Iron Maiden album tours. They will be two albums. So, God, I'm an idiot. 2 years, and each year will have a distinct set list. So, why don't you tell us about the set list?
Okay, very quick. And this is in details with the set list. The Matter of Life and Death tour was the 5th time I had seen Maiden, of the 6 times that I have seen them live. And I've told this story before, but I drove everybody crazy driving up to see this show because I was going on and on about, here we go again, Number of the Beast, Run to the Hills. It's just, here we, and like to the point where like, me, shut the F up. Like we know what we're going to see. Like, stop talking about this. So I was just, and I wouldn't stop about it. I wouldn't stop going on. Well, we get there, and all of a sudden they start with which I knew was the, because I had heard the album once or twice at this point, and they started with Different World. And I go, well, that's a neat start. And then it's these colors are thrown around. I'm saying to Tom, going, they're not doing what I think they're doing. They can't be doing what I think they're doing. And they did. They did exactly what I thought they were doing. And I was lucky enough to see the 8th show of the tour in Toronto, Ontario in October of 2006. And I think it's amazing what they did. There are not many bands that have been doing this, for like before or since, to a certain point, where bands play a whole album live. It
has become sort of vogue in recent years for them to go back to a classic album from the past and play it all live. But to play a new album live in its entirety is almost unheard of.
But it's not just them that it's vogue for. Like, bands do this all the time now. It's like, we're gonna do a tour. Death Angel right now is doing an Mind tour. Mindcrime tour. But like, it used to be kind of like 70s bands would do that. But then for years, nobody did that. And when Maiden did this, it was such an original thing. It made the show special. Now I have now I just want to, I'm going to end my talk on this and say this. In the show, and I looked it up on set list. So they play the album, then they play Fear of the Dark, then Iron Maiden, the song. Then it's encore time. They play 2 Minutes to Midnight, The Evil That Men Do, and Hallowed Be Thy Name. My question to Harrison is, Was that what they did every show? And is that what you're talking about, that there was a second leg? And did they change those last tunes later?
Okay, so as far as I can tell with my research, those 5 classics remained unchanged throughout the 2006 leg of the world tour. As Meters alluded to, in 2006, they played the whole album in its entirety, followed by the 2 songs, then the 3 encores. Then this got a very mixed reception from fans. There was a lot of vocal complaining about it. There was the classic video of Bruce ripping up the sign that says "Play Classics." But nevertheless, they relented in 2007. They renamed it to the A Matter of the Beast tour to chronicle. It would have been, how many years of Number of the Beast? 35, 25? Yeah, I think 25. It was an anniversary of Number of the Beast. And so they switched out 5 songs from... they basically retired 5 songs from A Matter of Life and Death and then brought in extra songs. So they played 4 from Number of the Beast. They played a whole bunch of other classics and stuff.
I got the better deal.
Yes, I think it's fair to say. And we'll get into that when we get into the bootlegs. Yeah, definitely the 2006 tour is the better deal. But this is the one Iron Maiden album outside of Senjutsu, which is its own special case because the Senjutsu tour was very weird because it never got its own tour, even though it piggybacked on 2 tours. This was the only tour of the Iron Maiden reunion albums up until Senjutsu that didn't receive a live album. Now, Download 2007 was filmed. Bruce even mentions that they're filming this for a DVD. Never came out. It was cancelled for whatever reason. Lots of speculation, lots of different reasons as to why, ranging from as mundane as, well, Bruce falls over during Wrathchild, even though he continues singing it all, to it's up on YouTube, the webcast. There's no point putting out the DVD. So as you can imagine, bootlegs from the A Matter of Life and Death tour are quite valuable. Now, I was trying to get a bootleg that Mike is going to talk about. I couldn't. It's so stupidly rare. I had to settle for Download 2007, which, Mike got the better deal. This Sweden, I think it was, show from 2006. This is the A Matter of the Beast tour, and you can actually see. So the set list that they played that day: Different World, These Colors Don't Run, Brighter Than a Thousand Suns, Wrathchild, Trooper, Children of the Damned, Benjamin Bree, Greater Good of God, Number of the Beast, Fear of the Dark, Run to the Hills, Iron Maiden. Okay, so as you are saying, Meek, basically the Fear of the Dark through to Hallowed Be Thy Name remained unchanged. As you can see, they left on a lot of the best stuff from, in my opinion, A Matter of Life and Death, like Brighter Than a Thousand Suns, Benjamin Bree. But if I could have bought Mike's bootleg, I would have.
Why do you think they did that? Fan backlash? Yeah,
pretty much. I think they caved into the...
See, it's true that there was fan backlash because not only did when the show was over, I remember us walking around and people were complaining after the show. People were like, I wish they would have played. I wanted to hear Maiden. I want to hear Maiden stuff. And I remember thinking, you're all missing the point here. I guess, and I will just say this, I guess, if you were seeing Iron Maiden for the first time and that's what you got, I can understand maybe being somewhat disappointed. I can see it. But anyone who's seen them before, you should have cherished what you were seeing, in my opinion.
I saw the Future Past tour here in Australia, and when the show ended, there were some people off to the left of me that were like, come on, they got to play Number of the Beast. And then there were people trying to start a chant, Beast, 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 to try and get Maiden to come back out and play the Number of the Beast for the 3,000th time. And I'm just like, man, you just saw Caught Somewhere in Time, and you want to hear Number of the Beast again?
Good point.
Anyway, Mike, you have a very special bootleg to talk about that I've shut you down before. Now it's time. You get the spotlight now.
I didn't realize that you were having such a hard time getting it. I got this in 2013.
It's vanished off the face of the earth. I can't find it anywhere.
But not on vinyl, because I've seen people online recently buying this on vinyl.
Maybe the vinyl. I'm talking about CD here. CD
I know.
really,
you might have to cave if you want a physical product.
I might have to. I do have a small collection of vinyl for things that I can't get on CD.
But this.
Hey, look! It's Revenge is Living in the Past. The line
there it
that
is.
I
There's the
quote.
quote. There's a little bit of that logo that I like so much. So this is Sweden, November 18th, 2006.
A radio broadcast, this was.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good, but I remember, maybe a decade ago, I was playing it in the car with Uncle Meat, and his comment was it was just a little too bootleggy for our road trip. And I'm in and out of focus here, but yeah. So opinions may vary. It is most definitely a bootleg. You can hear that it is a bootleg.
So what are those bonus tracks on there?
Well, Harrison, I'm glad you asked. They had some extra room at the end of disc 2. So they threw on from 1981.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Rome, Italy, October 27th, 1981. Iron Maiden, Transylvania, Drifter, and Prowler. So that's just kind of a fun way to end the CD.
Totally that's the Killer tour with Bruce.
Yeah. It totally doesn't fit at all, but it sounds great, so I'll take it. But yeah, this is a bit bootleggy sounding. There's no question. It is a bootleg. That is what you're going to hear. It doesn't sound like a produced live album, as Meat will attest to. But I'm very glad I found this. I found this in 2013, and I want to say it was in Guelph, Ontario, at a record show with our good friend Trevor Girdot. And I saw it there in a front rack on sale. I think it was $60. I think it was marked down from 70, something like that. There was no way I was leaving without this. This was like one of those holy grail things at that time. In 2013, knowing that they weren't going to likely do a live album of this tour, that was a holy grail. Yeah. So
now, we'll get to this when we cover Nights of the Dead, but in 2020, there were some digital re-releases of some of the songs from this tour.
All right. Well,
but we'll get to that. But right now, just to wrap up the tour, so I'm going to talk about the legacy of the album on the live circuit. Now, this section where I talk about the future of the album in regards to set lists is becoming more and more redundant at this point because there's much less tours. And the way Maiden structure their album tours these days, they rarely bring stuff back from the past. Back when we're talking about Peace of Mind, and I can tell you, well, we got this here, this there. You know, we had a bit of a gap there, but then it came back there. It made more sense. But so... A Matter of Life and Death. So on the Final Frontier tour for the 2010 leg, we got Benjamin Brieg and we got Brighter Than a Thousand. Not Brighter. These Colors Don't Run. Played regularly with Brighter Than a Thousand Suns making a special appearance on the opening night. And then we got For the Greater Good of God on the first half of the Legacy of the Beast tour before the Senjutsu revamp. But other than that, like Dance of Death, like Final Frontier, these songs rarely reappear because Maiden are too busy focusing on the new album they're promoting and don't often have room for songs like these in the set list, which is a real shame because, as I talked about in our Brave New World episode, we have to hear Blood Brothers every second tour. We have to hear Blood Brothers, but no, I'm sorry, sir. Oliver Twist has asked for the reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg, sir. And he can't have it.
Yeah, that's kind of too bad. These songs are better than they're being treated in that way, I think.
I wonder if that is because of the backlash that they received in 2006.
I think that's certainly a contributing factor.
Yeah.
But no, we sort of briefly talked about the artwork, but we like to talk about the artwork at the very end of the show, and I'm going to say that I like this artwork. It's not the most cinematic, it's not the most dramatic, but a lot of these artworks, like Killers, are just Eddie standing there. It's just a dude standing there. So to have a bit of a scene with a bit more going on, a bit more visually here, even though it's a little more cluttered and it's not like some cinematic thing, I think this is a really cool artwork. I like it.
I agree. Yeah.
Plus, it's got a tank.
A tank that I recreated out of Lego. Well, the front facade, at least. I didn't make the whole thing.
Yeah, they have a tank like Kiss did on the Creatures.
Oh, yeah, that's the greatest tragedy of the fact that we didn't get a live album from this tour. We don't get to see the tank. It's my favorite of those big eddies. It's a tank. Come on.
Make it right, Maiden. Make it right. Well, boys, we always have to rate the album at the end of the show. And for me, it's an easy 5 out of 5. Easy 5 out of 5. You guys?
I'm going to give it 4.75 out of 5.
I would give it, I'd say a 4.75 out of 5. Like, I look at it, I hold it up in my hand, and I hold, say, the Iron Maiden debut, or like Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, which are both albums I gave 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm like, Matter of Life and Death is just slightly lower. It might have to do with the fact it's a bit longer and denser. It's more of an album that you listen to in one sitting, whereas Seventh Son of a Seventh Son has a lot more songs that you can listen to on their own. But yeah, 4.75 out of 5 stars.
I would definitely say that Seventh Son would be a 5.
Yes, Seventh Son is a 5 for me, basically.
Yeah,
but A Matter of Life and Death is a 4.75 for me.
I agree.
Well, folks, if you're as exhausted as I am, then you must enjoy A Matter of Life and Death as much as we do. This has been the longest episode to date, rightfully so, because there was so much material to cover and so much praise to heap,
and so much product.
It's so much. It is. Look, it is so much product.
We even covered stuff that didn't even get released.
Where else are you going to find that on YouTube, folks? Nowhere else except for 50 years of Iron Maiden. Thanks for watching. Henry, I know you're in bed, but thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. I do have good news. This is the last super, super, super long episode that we're going to have for one of these studio albums, because that's it for really, except for a couple of things we're going to talk about. That's pretty much it for B-sides. So from this part on, the next 3, it's just the albums. So much shorter episodes, I promise.
It was a pleasure to be a part of this episode, and thank you very much for my involvement. Thank you.
You were the one we had to have on for this one. You were the man, the number one man for this episode, and we're glad that you were able to make it.
Well, I mean, considering that I experienced live the surprise of Iron Maiden being so classic to do what they did, it's something that will always be remembered as just, in ways, my favorite Maiden show. In ways,
you've seen Iron Maiden 6 times, but there was one time that was not like any of the others.
Right.
Exactly.
No matter how many more times you see them, nothing is going to be quite like that time.
Exactly, because there's no Run to the Hills, no nature.
Number of the Beast.
I almost said Nature of the Beast. Wrong band.
April Wine.
No Number of the Beast. Yeah, it really was special.
And I'll be curious, what the comments say, if there are going to be people here who say, I saw that tour and I was so disappointed they didn't play Number of the Beast. Or if we get the people who say, listen, I saw something that will never be repeated and I got to see it and not even officially released. Like, that just makes it that much more special. And maybe that's the reason why they never officially released anything, to keep it that special feeling that only you got to see.
Think of all those people in Hawaii who saw Judas Priest play Diamonds and Rust on the final date of the Fuel for Life tour. The only date that tour they played. Imagine how special that's going to feel. Or Melissa, who saw Running Free played on the only time they played it on the Peace of Mind tour.
Exactly.
Wow.
So there are a lot of things to consider here with this episode, including getting some sleep. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And we will see you next time on 50 Years of Iron Maiden.
Up the irons, everybody.